What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to kdjTV. Today, we're talking about the gameplay feature premiere for MLB The Show 25 that finished just a few hours ago. And if one thing is clear, crystal clear, from this feature premiere, the development team seems to be supremely confident in MLB The Show 25. It remains to be seen if that actually ends up being true once we touch the game. But, I mean, based on everything we've seen, things look pretty good. So, in the gameplay feature premiere, the boys and girls over at SCS talked a good bit about ambush hitting, infield reactions, the new throw meter, the home run robbery meter, GOAT mode, sweepers, everything. And I took notes. So we're going to talk about some of the key things here, and we're of course going to start with ambush hitting. Basically here, as you're watching some ambush hitting happening in the background, here are the key things to know. It is an extension of zone hitting. So I believe, yes, you have to be using zone hitting mechanics to be using ambush hitting. All you do is you take your right analog stick and you put it in the direction in which you'd like to ambush, and bingo, it's activated. If you hold down R3, that deactivates it, so you're able to turn it on and off as you please. This is not the same as guest pitch for offline players. Guest pitch is an offline mechanic. This is not the same as that. The cool thing about this, I was nervous, admittedly, about ambush hitting. I thought it would be too OP. And maybe there becomes a world where we all get pretty good at it, and it is a little overpowered. But if you guess wrong, it's going to shrink your PCI about 2 difficulties of shrinkage. I'm a man. That's a lot of shrinkage. And the timing is going to get worse. Doesn't mean it's impossible to hit. If you're good and you can read a pitch, you of course can still make it happen, but it's going to be harder. A correct guess of ambush hitting almost makes it 1 difficulty easier in terms of timing and PCI size. So you're going to have to kind of play the cat and mouse game. I'd like to also, by the way, pause this really quickly. Look at how good Manny Ramirez's swing looks. He's facing Roger Clemens. A lot of this feature premiere, I don't know who decided what the matchups were for recording. A lot of this early feature premiere was the Yankees getting pooped on. I didn't like that. But this Manny Ramirez swing and his follow-through and his pimp job look real good. So just watch this. I'll stay silent. Bang! I'm not going to stay silent. That looked really good. And that ball was just destroyed. He ambushed it. Notice in the bottom left corner, you can see that he used ambush hitting for something inside. He got it. He turned it. He cranked it. Exit velo 117. This is clearly an offline simulation they've put together. In my online experience, I can't recall seeing an exit velo that high. Doesn't mean it's impossible. If you've had one higher than that, for sure, tell me. Maybe they cranked up some exit velos this year. That's just a theory. It's based on nothing but that screenshot, but it's just a thing to think about. A couple other things on ambush hitting. I'll go back to letting this play through. And I apologize if it looks like I'm reading straight from a piece of paper, because I am. You can still use your PCI anchor. It doesn't eliminate the PCI anchor. So that's also kind of cool. Gives you a lot of options to hit the way you'd like to hit. And what's cool this year about the PCI anchor is that you can actually load in presets. So like if I'm righty-righty, I can preset my PCI to start low and in, as an example, and you could do that in the options menu, which has been entirely streamlined. The menus look incredible, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So ambush hitting looks like it's going to be okay. It's available in all modes. I am going to try it out. I'm going to try not to be too reliant on it. I still think the best situations are going to be in no strike and 1 strike counts. I don't see a world in which it's going to be incredibly beneficial to use ambush hitting in a 2 strike count. You can, if you're like so super de-duper sure you're getting a fastball in, I mean, go for it. But I really think it's a good idea to use it in no strike, 1 strike counts, and certainly with count leverage. Make sure you don't put yourself at an inherent disadvantage right off the jump. A lot of people might find this next bit of stuff less interesting, but I actually find it more interesting because it's kind of a little bit of a departure from just like the hit type of gameplay that has existed. It seems like, and right now it's all just words, we'll see what it's like when we play it, but it seems like fielding is actually going to be a thing this year. they've said in the past, we have thousands of new animations, we have this, we've got perfect timing throws, we've got yada yada yada. But with the way they're kind of like displaying fielding and talking to us about fielding, I think they're confident that fielding actually is integral in the way this game works. So first we're going to talk about infield reactions. Their goal was to focus on quicker footwork, quicker reactions, and that's going to have a direct correlation to your attribute. Your attribute is actually going to determine how successful you are in the field, and that's huge. It makes a big difference because one tier, like there's 3 tiers. There's okay, there's good, there's perfect in terms of infield reactions. That tier difference, they said, might only be like a couple tenths of a second, but in reality, that's the difference between getting to a ball cleanly, having to dive for it, or outright missing it even on a dive entirely. So that, I mean, if you play online, but if you play anywhere in this game, that's a big, big, big deal. So it's not going to prohibit you from using anybody you want, but it's going to make you think about your choices, especially up the middle. I think up the middle is going to be a big deal, which it is in real life. Defense is going to be important. For infielders, all attributes are actually going to mean something. But reaction is like, reaction's the one. Reaction is the one you should care most about. And there's this cool chart that I'm going to try to find. Oh, it was easy enough. This is sick. So basically, if you're using a 99 reaction time fielder, like an attribute of 99 on reaction, you will get a perfect jump to the ball 100% of the time. Don't misinterpret this. That does not mean you're going to catch it 100% of the time. It doesn't mean you're going to get to the ball 100% of the time. But your fielder, when moving in the direction of the ball, will get a perfect jump 100% of the time. If you're using a 75 overall, you'll get a perfect jump 42.7% of the time. And of course, it's a sliding scale. If you're a 76, it'll get higher. 77 will get higher. 78 will get higher. But 99, you will always get a perfect jump. That means you got to make some decisions. Let's move to the new throwing meter. Of course, there is an aesthetic change. It just looks different. It's got the full green bar. It's got the blue stuff. The new blue throw meter for perfects is basically because they found it way too easy to get perfect throws the last year or so. And I mean, wholeheartedly agree. They don't want there to be an unreasonable number of outfield assists because in real life, outfield assists are not an easy thing to get. So your arm accuracy, based on this screenshot here, will now determine how large your blue perfect throw meter is. And again, to reiterate what we talked about during the feature deep dive a couple days ago, they're moving the blue meter over to the end to add a little bit more risk versus reward to when you're trying to throw base runners out. So if you go beyond that blue, you're going to get a red throw. That doesn't necessarily mean you're airmailing it. I was watching as this gameplay was happening, and a lot of the red throws were just offline. They did pull the defender off the base, but it didn't look ridiculous. I presume if you throw it at the very end of the red, you're going to doink little Sally in the second row. But if you're just a little past it, just be an offline throw. But it is going to add risk to actually trying to throw people out. And that's why having 99 arm accuracy, doesn't matter about arm strength, arm accuracy is going to be a bigger blue meter. And that's going to be important. So again, just things you got to think about now when building your team. And I've asked for the longest time to make players have utility. Every card that is dropped, whether it's in a power curve, whether it's in all 99 sets and seasons, give every card a reason to exist. Now, if they're going to make fielding more important, that's going to give more cards more reasons to exist and be used, and I like that. One of the things I am most excited for this year, and also, honestly, the most nervous about, is the home run robbery changes. Home run robberies have made no sense for the longest time in MLB The Show. They've made 0 sense. They appear to visually make a lot of sense this year. There are, what is the number they said? They didn't give me a number, but there are new animations from every single angle that you could approach the wall and every timing mechanism that you can approach the wall with. Basically, you just got to hit that button as soon as it hits into the green, and it doesn't matter where you are in relation to the ball. Your player will either speed up in an animation, slow down in an animation, stutter step, hang on to the top of the wall like Vince Carter dunking, and get it. Like, super excited about that. I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be logical, and that's important. The scary thing, I worry that it's going to become much, much easier, much easier than it used to, and we might lose a lot of homers. So, don't hit wall scrapers is my best advice. And very important, all that's going to matter, they just said, is your fielding attribute as far as, I guess, that green range goes. So, important fielders, or having important players in the field. It's going to be big. You'll also see, if you go back to YouTube and watch this back, or if you just see gameplay over the course of the next several weeks, that you're going to see a lot of icons and colors and arrows and this and that underneath the fielders. The goal was to make things more transparent. There are a lot of things at play that determine what animation you're going to get. And in previous years, they were very forthcoming when they said this. Most of that was just like hidden under the hood. Not hidden in a way to be like deceptive, just hidden. But now they want you to understand why you're getting the animations or the reactions or the play results that you're getting. So to do that, they've put a lot more information right in front of you. And I think it looks good. One of the worries of doing something like that is that it could clutter up the screen and clutter up the user interface, and I don't think it does it here. You might think differently, let me know. Next thing they talked a lot about was player lock. Now, I'm not much of an offline player myself. I hope that the offline modes are so updated and scintillating this year that I maybe get into some offline a little bit, but this first-person mode looks super, or not mode, visual, looks really, really cool. You're able to opt into this at will. Like, in the middle of a play, you can turn it on and go first person, which I think is super neat. It is a lot more immersive, and there's also a lot more immersion on cutoff plays when you're using player lock situations. So, Road to the Show franchise gives you the option to throw to certain bases. You'll watch it here. Colt Keith, who I didn't realize played first base, he is going to go in and go to his little cutoff spot, and you'll see, I'll try to pause it. Boom. Right as he's about to catch the cutoff throw, you can see when he receives it, he'll have the option to throw to home, third, or second. And it's just going to be one of those like quick time events that gives you 3 seconds to make the decision, like a typical quick time event. But they've tried to make that entire relationship more immersive. The catcher is even going to have a lot more control, I suppose is the right word, over what's going to happen. Again, kind of cool for people who are into that. Not necessarily my thing that I seek out when playing MLB The Show, but a vast majority of the player base does. So this might be a fun, welcome addition. All right, we're going to talk about quality of life updates now, and let me tell you, there are more than I think we could get to in a 50-minute video. Awesome. Quality of life updates are a big deal that people just kind of like overlook because they're not flashy, like a graphical change or a new engine. Like, quality of life is important. And you'll see over the course of this, look, first of all, that was the fastest little transition I've ever seen. Hold on, we're going to try to play it and then pause it. Play it and pause it. Hold on. And they're going to hit the pause button in a second. There we go. Okay, so here's the pause menu. Doesn't look a ton different on the surface. Of course, a little bit of colors. I do like the rounded edges on the boxes. Again, that's just UI. Doesn't mean a ton. Doesn't make the game different. But menus look nice. Menus pop out. Menus, they said they streamlined them entirely. But the big talking points here, very big. For online players, this is huge. You don't have to warm up pitchers anymore. Which, FYI, you didn't really have to in MLB The Show 24 either. Nobody really knows that, but you don't have to. The pitchers come in and they're warm. But they have effectively entirely removed the warming up mechanic for online play. The goal is to speed up games and have people spend less time in pause menus. And speaking of pause menus, the gameplay timer, the gameplay pause menu, used to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah, it's down to 1:30 now. You ain't holding me in pause prison forever, and that's super excited. Another cool change is when you enter a quick menu in previous years, including MLB The Show 24, your opponent would be unable to do anything. Now, if you're in your quick menu, your opponent can also be in their quick menu and paused and doing stuff at the same time, managing the game, just further keeping things moving, and I love that. Also removed, you know how if your controller disconnects, you, the opponent, would forfeit their game? Oh, how did I say? No, I said that wrong. If your opponent disconnects, sorry, it's very confusing. It's so confusing, that's why it's so stupid it existed. If your opponent's controller disconnects, you get a warning that says if you hit square, you could take the loss. Why? Who the hell knows? That's been removed, so that's good. Another cool thing in the quality of life, we will see it right there. There's a lot more information, pitcher-batter analysis available. On this right side here, you can see the last 40 pitches from the pitcher's perspective. You can see how many fastballs have been thrown for strikes, what the batting average is on fastballs, the screwball, like I'm here for this. You could see quick filters like a Rosarena's left-handed pitcher versus left-handed hit. Like, more information's better. We'll see how useful it is, what type of utility it has, but I like having more information at my hands. And if this information tells me that my opponent, for sure, sucks against screwballs, we're throwing screwballs. So anything to make you a better player. I like that. So we're just going to go through some odds and ends here, because this is about where the Q&A started, the live Q&A. So ambush hitting, this is just a good way to think about it. If you get a positive result, I guess we'll start at All-Star, it's going to feel like you're hitting on Veteran. If you get a negative result, it's going to feel like you're hitting on Legend, at least for that specific ambushed pitch. I think that's super neato and super cool. I think it's better than just giving you a blanket boost. I'm trying to find... Well, this is where they told us that you could, that the menus are different and you can pin or set your PCI anchor preset. There is a thing they showed us with fielders. I may not be able to find it, but basically if you hit R3 and R2 at the same time, it brings up a top-down view of your entire defensive layout, and it shows you all of their attributes, their fielding, their reaction, their arm strength, just so you know who's where. And it sounds so silly or simplistic, but that is such a nice quality of life change. Like, that is huge. Big fan of that. They also talked about how they added sweepers. Over 160 player cards receive sweepers based on if they throw it in real life, Skeens and Ohtani being the primary ones. Important to know, the sweeper is not replacing anything. The slider's still there, the slurve is still there. The sweeper is its own new pitch, so it's going to have a whole new type of break path that we have to get used to, for better or worse. The GOAT mode was also discussed a good bit. The GOAT mode is a whole nother milestone. It starts at 1,000 rating in ranked. It is going to be the highest weekend classic division, which I kind of assumed. It is going to be in esports, which I kind of assumed. And it's going to be an available option in most single-player modes. I don't know why it's in most and not all. I guess it depends on if, like, I don't know, is Showdown considered... Showdown is a single-player mode, even though it's within Diamond Dynasty, so, like, I don't know why it's in most and not all. I suppose we'll see and learn more as it comes out. What else did they say here? GOAT difficulty is also going to, of course, be a smaller PCI and decreased timing windows. The par for pitchers is going to be a lot bigger, which I don't like, but it is what it is. And timing for pinpoint pitching is going to be very, very hard. So, as a reminder, here is the updated feature deep dive and premiere content that is coming for the rest of, eternity, until the launch day. So, I'm super excited for this. Let me know what your favorite thing you learned more about today was. We learned a lot of cool stuff, and again, all of it is just talk until we get to play it. But I could tell by the presentation, I could tell by the tone of voice, I could tell by the depth provided that SDS is confident in this game. It didn't feel like that the last couple years, so that just makes me feel good. We'll see what it's like when we play it, but it makes me feel good. So let me know what you loved, hit subscribe, videos coming, and they're not stopping coming, so subscribe. Love you guys. See you next time.